Hello, I'm Basil Valentine, and this is Unprecedented TV, unfiltered, uncensored, unprecedented, the home of free speech here on the internet. Do please like and subscribe over at YouTube. Follow us on X, and remember, I'm on air every day, Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. for Ascending Order, your daily news edit, with live guests and all the genuinely most important stories from around the world. Don't allow yourself to be propagandized by the corporate media. Forget the world at one on Radio 4. Join me, Basil Valentine, instead, 1 p.m. on X, Monday to Friday, also on YouTube. And I'll see you all very soon. In fact, I'll see you all right now. Hello, it's Monday, the 29th of September, and welcome to the program. This is Ascending Order with me, Basil Valentine, the start of a new week, another tumultuous week, no doubt, in world events and politics. The Labour Party conference is underway in Liverpool. They've done their best to dodge the issue of the genocide in the Middle East. We'll have a look at that a little bit later on. That dreadful creature, Yvette Cooper, the one masquerading as Foreign Secretary, has been on the podium this morning making remarks about the Gaza genocide, but won't bring herself to use that word. We'll also have a look at events in the United States, around the world, the latest on digital ID, of course, Starmer's flagship policy, but it's going to be sunk before it's even been launched. 2.5 million people nearly have signed the online petition saying not to adopt it, which is an enormous number for that kind of petition. Only needs 100,000 to be debated in Parliament. I predict mass non-compliance. And if you're in the UK, remember, we've got a big date coming up. There it is. Resist digital ID, the mass non-compliance protest, 1 p.m. London, Saturday, October the 18th. I don't often go to demonstrations, but I might well find myself at that one. Now, speaking of activism and demonstrations, there's no doubt where the tip of the spear is globally at the moment, and it's in the Eastern Mediterranean, where the Gaza humanitarian flotilla is getting ever closer to the shores of the besieged, pummeled and devastated enclave. I'm going to bring onto the stage now my good friend Frank Romano. Frank is on board the Spectre, one of the boats at the forefront of the attempt to break the siege. A lot of talk in Western media about how Gaza is starving, but rarely do we hear who is actually starving them. Now, Frank's boat is loaded with humanitarian aid, but whether or not it reaches the starving of Gaza remains to be seen. There was a startling admission on CNN a couple of days, and I'll get Frank's comment on this. Apparently, the Israelis are not allowing even the most basic foodstuffs, a peanut-based spread tube of high nutrient material, which is given to starving children because it's the most effective way of getting protein into their bodies. But apparently it's a luxury item, according to the genocide heirs, as we can hear now.
Kids dying of starvation, effectively their bodies consuming their own organs. What we give them to try and avoid that is this kind of high protein peanut butter paste.
I know what it is,
and we've been told we can't bring peanut butter in because it's a luxury, because Hamas might try to steal the peanut butter. So we are on the border every day arguing. Seriously, we are fighting to get our convoys through. We're getting a little bit more in now, but it is still a drop in the ocean. And what we're seeing in Gaza City is utterly horrendous. And again, people who've been displaced time and time again. The lucky people are the ones living under tents. The lucky people are the people who can escape, but we're there. We will stay and deliver. We've got our colleagues remaining in Gaza City to save as many lives as we can and to bear witness and testimony to what we see.
I'm literally trying to process the peanut. It's called the plumpy thing, right? I've seen it given in desperate situations all over the world. And you're telling me that is being forbidden. It's on a list of banned substances into Gaza?
Yeah, and what we have to deal with each day are these bureaucratic restrictions. We deal with the rules changing all the time. You know, we get convoys across the border, we unload, we then have to load them up again onto different lorries. We then don't get the permission to move. We get sent down the road where the looters are waiting, desperate, starving, hungry people. My colleague in Gaza has been documenting each day in videos the reality of what we face on those convoys. And guess what? She's about to lose her visa and get kicked out.
Because?
Because she's trying to tell the world what you are not allowed in to tell the world.
What you're not allowed in to tell the world, that's the whole point, isn't it? Tom Fletcher there of the UN Humanitarian Fund. Absolutely appalling hell on earth situation. The genocidaires promised they would make it hell on earth, and they're living up to their word, aren't they, Frank? Who is aboard the Spectre in the Eastern Med?
Yes, and as I said before, it's been systematic before to keep the Gazan Palestinians above poverty, and now the decision really is get rid of, exterminate, because the Gazan Palestinians won't leave. And since they're sort of at the heart of this new generation, showing the world how to detach themselves from the claws of this military-industrial complex, I think Israel and the United States said, well, we just have to get rid of them because we're afraid. They're afraid of this revolution igniting a worldwide, strike, worldwide reaction against this huge money interest, at the head of which are the United States and Israel.
Yeah, you make a very good point. There is a sort of global awakening going on. It hasn't reached all the corridors of power in Washington, London, Brussels, and Bonn for the moment, but it's certainly very evident on the streets in Europe, in the United States, and certainly in the global south. Aboard the flotilla there in the Eastern Mediterranean, I know you've had tremendous support from people in Italy in particular, where near general strike last week and a strike by dock workers in Genoa really forced the Zionist Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni's hand, and two Italian Navy vessels are now supposed to be at least protecting and escorting the flotilla. Can you give us any information on that, Frank?
Yes, just to follow through with what you said, Basil, the Italian people literally closed the country down, and Meloni, even though he did not want to help this flotilla with humanitarian aid, was forced to, and dispatching two Italian naval vessels. In fact, but we haven't seen any yet. They were supposed to be speeding on the way here to, like you say, the Eastern Mediterranean. We left Crete Saturday, but we have seen two Turkish vessels and the Turkish frigate, from which they've sent out drones. So they have been flying over us, patrolling with their drones, UAV drones, and then the Greek frigate that was also protecting us in Greek waters left us as soon as we left Greek waters. So it truly has instigated something we didn't expect. We always hoping that the Mediterranean countries in particular will wake up to their obligation under the, and we'll talk about that, Basil, if you'd like, the International Court of Justice provisional decision attached to that decision, that complaint by South Africa for genocide against Israel, which is still pending. The provisional decision said Israel cannot impede the flow of humanitarian aid. And since it's doing that, and the blockade is illegal, and intercepting the Madeleine, the Hondelin, and the threat to intercept that is already a threat to commit a crime, then I'm asking, and we are asking and encouraging Mediterranean countries, to Spain, Italy, France, Greece, Turkey, to comply with their obligation. It's literally not something they're doing from their heart necessarily in solidarity, I think Spain perhaps more in solidarity with the Gazan Palestinian struggle against this genocide. It's an absolute international law obligation for these countries to protect humanitarian aid that was then ordered in by the International Court of Justice just a few months ago.
Well, it's nearly 2 years. I mean, it's incredible to think that provisional ruling was in January 2024. Since then, the poor Gazans have only had a few weeks when they haven't been constantly bombarded from the air by Israeli jets, of course, with the connivance not only of the United States, but also of the United Kingdom, Germany, and the rest of the European Union. There are 44, I think, Italians on board the flotilla, including parliamentarians, various other celebrities, as we know. Zionists are continuing to try and portray the whole thing as some kind of selfie cruise, that it's all for your own personal self-aggrandizement, Frank, and the others on the flotilla virtue signaling. I can't help thinking that that's a projection of their own narcissism, really. Some people find it impossible to conceive of the idea that others are willing to make huge sacrifices in an altruistic way. I don't think it's a pleasure cruise over there where you are at the moment, is it, Frank?
Well, you hit upon a basic, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but a psychiatric phenomenon, which is often people that see parts of them transpose that onto others. And so these propagandists that are spreading the fact this is a selfie thing, they're thinking, well, if I were on the boat, it would definitely be a selfie thing for the glory, for me. And in the boat, transposing themselves in seeing that they are sincerely, trying to showcase some of the Palestinian people bringing humanitarian aid and do something with that situation because it has nothing to do with this leisure. They totally experience what we experience. We have issues.
I'm determined to stick with you, Frank, because of course, it's such fantastic footage. But I'm going to take you off the screen just for a moment because the line was really breaking up too badly there. Frank's using Starlink. Can you hear me now, Frank?
Yes, clearly. Okay. I can
Okay.
hear you very
Obviously,
well.
it's very in and out. Yeah, we were just saying people do like to project their own personality over others. And to many people, it's inconceivable that you could be doing something really genuinely. And I'm glad to say all the contact I've had with everybody on the flotilla has been to constantly recenter the conversation on Gaza, because corporate media is desperate to take up all the oxygen in the room by talking about absolutely anything else they can, all the peripheral issues, the persecution of Palestine Action activists and its supporters. A lot of news media is given to that, and very rightly, because it's a gross infringement of civil liberties. But the simple fact is that Palestinians are being massacred on a daily basis. Dozens of people are murdered every day, men, women, and children. And that's what needs to be centered all the time, Frank, because if this was happening anywhere else in what we might call the European orbit, well, there would have been a military intervention by now. I saw Roger Waters this morning saying that he was talking to Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, and the Hague group of countries are moving a motion at the United Nations General Assembly for a military intervention. And I've seen on the news wires this morning, are Israel and Spain possibly heading for military confrontation with Israel? I don't see Israel or Spain getting involved in a direct confrontation with Israel. Apart from anything else, it's got nuclear weapons, of course, undeclared, and has expressed a willingness to use them. So it's a very high stakes game that's being played now, isn't it, Frank?
Yes, it is. But what's really amazing, I think we can't forget that the I believe the Egyptian and the Turkish fleet were doing maneuvers not too far from where we are. And I think that's where the two Turkish frigates have come from. So the idea, Basil, really is to encourage, especially Mediterranean countries, to conform with their international law obligations and protect us. Bringing in humanitarian aid to Gaza was always a hope. When it happened, when actually even if Italy and Spain, they don't chaperone us, let's just say, protect us all the way to Gaza, just by saying it, saying that they would protect us, especially to protect their citizens aboard, is still huge. And actually sending boats on the way anyway. Again, we haven't seen an Italian or Spanish boat. I think one activist said he thought he saw an Italian frigate out there, Italian warship, but there are two one Turkish warship and a frigate out there with the drones. We didn't expect it, but we see it is sort of a domino effect now, and we're actually thought we'd probably do this all alone by ourselves, but with a massive number of boats. That was the hope of the Honduras and the Madeleine, open up the corridor and break the siege. And this was what got me to the flotilla, the global Samud flotilla. I wasn't going to be a part of. I was just kind of recouping from the Honduras. And when I got there in Barcelona, I felt the energy and I forgot my fatigue and being in prison, and just said, this is what we've been talking about. I'd be a hypocrite if I was not part of this, as we've been advocating so much, Basil, that we really would like a massive number of boats after the Honduras and the Madeleine, and then coordinate with a back to Gaza movement by land. And here we are. But this, to directly respond to your question, Basil, that yes, this is a dangerous situation for world stability, and this could ignite if Israel went ahead a little bit and waiting, seeing, and probably have other strategies were to attack us again. The reason why last Wednesday that Spain and Italy got involved to send warships was because we were attacked. That could really ignite a confrontation, and hopefully we will. I hope it does not end in any type of violence. It will be a standoff, and then we'll be allowed to go into Gaza on the protection of these warships. And I think, where's France in this? France, Greece, they should have ships according to their international law obligation to accompany us to overcome the violations of Israel not bringing in humanitarian aid.
Yeah, there's a lot of fine words from European politicians about the need to not only funnel aid into Gaza, but also bring about a ceasefire. There's was talk last night that one is imminent. The latest US proposal incorporates a role for Qatar. Now, unsurprisingly, Netanyahu and the junta in Tel Aviv, the genocidaires, have raised all sorts of objections to Trump's plan, even though it's basically the plan they proposed themselves earlier in the year. They now want a diminished role for Qatar. It's endlessly playing time so that you can carry on the bombardment and the starvation, isn't it? Israel has repeatedly demonstrated it has no interest in lasting peace. Lots of their politicians say they want the land. They want to expel everybody and make Gaza part of the greater Israel project. Mass ethnic cleansing is the openly stated goal, with the ghoul Tony Blair as some kind of interim governor. We surely can't head to that hellish place, Frank.
Absolutely. And Tony Blair showed over and over again he lacks complete sincerity with any type of egalitarian approach to any type of a peace in the Middle East. He would be like, well, let's protect the hens with the foxes. But returning to that idea of ceasefire, what about the buffoon Netanyahu before the UN, saying, and it's all buffoonery and politics, and I'm sure he did not pull the, smoke screen the Israeli people by saying, you must return our hostages now. Well, the irony of it, and which makes a mockery of everything, is he could be very much instigating in the release of the hostages if he compromised with the ceasefire, at least with Hamas. that would give rise probably to the release of the hostages. So now he's blaming Hamas and browbeating them and saying, you bring them home, my hostages, and all this, when in reality, I don't think Netanyahu really cares about the hostages. He wants to maintain his power, and he wants to continue attacking Gaza, taking over the land. He wants to, he pushes himself into the glory of the thing, and then pays lip service to his own people about him caring about the hostages.
I think the hostage families have rumbled him a long time ago. While there are still hostages in Gaza, then, he seems to be able to carry on with impunity. Nobody talks about the 10,000 Palestinian hostages being held in the Israeli rape and torture gulag, including the director of the Al-Ansar hospital. He is apparently in a critical condition. Hundreds of children snatched off the streets. And, if we go back to October the 7th, Hamas's original intention was to swap Israeli military personnel for some of their own held in so-called administrative detention, that is to say held without charge, in the Israeli gulag. So, we've come a long way from that. It did not spectacularly backfire on Hamas. I think that was predictable, but we are where we are, Frank, and you are in the Eastern Mediterranean, a day or two away from the Gaza coast. What have you been training for, and what are you expecting to happen over the next 48 hours?
Yes, well, first of all, when we were in Barcelona, and then also the boats at the same time were preparing to join us from Tunisia and Italy, and then we went to Tunisia, we were preparing for interception. And then after the drone attack in the port of Tunis, now we have a training for a drone attack, and it's different type of training, different positioning in the boats. All the boats are very coordinated in their training. And so it's hard to say now what to expect, because it's hard to compare it with what happened to the Handel and the Madeline, which were singular boats going in, and there was an interception, and then we were arrested and then carted off to prison and then eventually deported. We're here, we've got about 50 boats now, and you're right, well, we should arrive in a day or two, probably more like 3 days. And it's hard to say if Israel might decide, especially if there's a back off of the Spanish and Italian warship, but they back away from it. We might try to other techniques that they've used against the Freedom Flotilla, one of which was to ram the boats, and others are to commit other, sabotage, such as tying, having skin divers go in when their boat is at anchor, and tying a strong fiber around the rudder, so if you turn the motor on, it will blow out the admission. It could try. We think it can happen any moment. Sabotage can happen any moment. Israel can, with hubris, it acts with impunity. Could say, we don't care. We know that we're not going to confront the Spanish and the Italians. They're just going to back off. Now, pretty close to the Madeline was intercepted. So anything can really happen at this point. We're staying hopeful. We're staying upbeat. That, as you probably recall, we were offered by the Italian government to drop off our humanitarian aid in Cyprus, and then a Catholic group would take it to Gaza, and then offered before that the Israeli government to go to an Israeli port and download or discharge our humanitarian aid, and the Israelis will take it to Gaza. We don't trust any agents to take the humanitarian aid, or we don't trust any possibility of our humanitarian aid, which is tons of food, water, and medicine, getting to Gaza without us personally delivering it. And that's why we're steadfast. And it's not about being irresponsible. The Italian government has browbeat us over, says you're being irresponsible and blah, blah. We really sincerely feel it's the best way. So we're asking the governments now to step up and protect us. It is their obligation under international law.
I think it would be utterly soul destroying for the Gazans as well to, if you were to divert to Cyprus or something. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you won't actually be sailing at any time through Israeli international waters. The Israelis do not own the seas off Gaza, although, of course, they patrol them and regularly attack fishermen and murder them as well. But any interception in international waters is an act of piracy, is it not? I mean, paratroopers landing on your boat or boarding it from another vessel and commandeering it, that's an act of piracy, isn't it?
Yes, under the United Charter, Article 51, a country can, out of its jurisdiction in international waters, intercept, attack a boat that's involved with the slave trade, with drugs, or any other illegal activity. It's clear, and they know this, and we're purely transparent. We're a non-violent operation of no connection to any group such as Hamas, and we want to sincerely do something about this awful genocide by providing humanitarian aid for the Gazan people. So that would be illegal. And then the International Court of Justice said Israel ordered Israel not to impede the flow of international aid, which then makes its blockade illegal. So yes, the Gazan waters we're talking about here are not Israeli waters, but Israeli has taken them over, saying this is war, and we're being threatened, and we're protecting ourselves. Theoretically, it's legitimate for Israel to say to protect themselves, but if the blockade, which in the most part is doing, is preventing humanitarian aid from arriving to the suffering people subject to this awful genocide, then it is completely illegal under the provisional measure by the International Court of Justice that was rendered in 2024.
So, in other words, it would be an act of piracy if they were to board the boat.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I'm sorry, Basil, I didn't answer. It would be an act of piracy. It would be obviously clearly illegal under their standards, and it's like they're calling us kind of like pirates, right? And we're back to the old psychiatrical thing, transposing onto us who they are. In reality, they're the pirates. They're the illegal, scathing, ferocious people that want to confront anyone getting close to them as a pretext. And they're trying to deter others. The reason why they would do this, Basil, really, is, and maybe they would sink a couple of our boats to deter other activists, because there's a six boat contingency coming from Italy now, and then there's 1,000 Madeleines. I'm not sure if 1,000 boats, but they could, and we have to consider it. They could really up the ante here and try to seek some type of deterrent, thinking that the Handel and Madeleine approach didn't deter, because here we are in mass.
My understanding is that they're extremely embarrassed by what's going on and frustrated at the resources that they're going to have to divert to intercepting the flotilla, because the symbolic victory, if any of the boats do actually reach Gaza, and hopefully, of course, the corporate media endlessly want to downplay anything to do with Gaza. The optics of one of your boats reaching Gaza may prove terminal for the genocide, particularly if anybody from the flotilla, especially a parliamentarian, dignitary, or celebrity, was injured or killed as a result.
Absolutely, and they're very cautious now, but I think they've acted so much in impunity. I'm not even sure if they even care about injuring any VIP or any person involved, or killing anyone. If we take a look at who they've killed, they killed Americans, they killed other countries, social workers. But I really think there is a strong, massive support now. We see Basil, and really give rise to such pressure on these governments that are feeding Israel, that are accomplices to Israel, like United States and France, not just hesitate, but they may be precluded in sending arms and aid to Israel. Basil, I have another interview. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to.
That's fine, Frank. Yeah, thank you, Frank. We'll keep in touch. We'll try and get 5 minutes from you tomorrow as well, and Wednesday. But for now, Frank Romano, Dr. Frank Romano, author, lawyer, and activist aboard the Spectre. All power to you. Good luck and be safe. And congratulations on your mission.
Thank you for your work. You know, it's essential. If it weren't for you, what we'd end up doing would be actually useless if we don't showcase the Palestinian struggle to the world, and you're helping do that. Thank you, Basil, and I'll be glad to speak with you tomorrow, any other day, except if I'm in prison, it might be a little difficult. Talk to you later.
There he goes. Thank you, Frank. There he goes. That's Dr. Frank Romano aboard the Spectre. I must admit, I was tempted to go and join them. Wasn't really practical for me at the moment, but if you want a genuine James Bond adventure for the ultimate cause at the moment, then you may yet get a chance to join a future flotilla, because the siege must be broken. Well, those are my new titles, and I hope to stick them on at the top of the program from tomorrow. If you haven't joined me before, welcome to Ascending Order. This is your daily lunchtime news edit here on Unprecedented TV, where I like to get not only sort of direct reports from the front like that from Frank, but also to pull together from social media and elsewhere things that you may not have picked up on if you're busy and you don't spend your entire time scrolling as I do. But given that I've done so, then my job is to sort of save you time and bring you information as well as some entertainment. Now, this came up yesterday. I found it highly amusing. It's a very welcome bit of light relief and a pivot away from the appalling business going on in the world. So I hope this makes you smile as much as it did me. And then we will get deeper into the very serious question behind it.
Citizens of Britain, the age of freedom is over. With the Brit card, you will be scanned, tracked and judged at every turn. No work, no rent, no pint of lager without my approval. They told you it was for immigration. Liars! It is for control. Your bank accounts, your movements, even your thoughts will belong to me. Welcome to Checkpoint Britain.
Brit card.
Obey! Obey! Citizens of Britain! I bring you the future! The Brit card! The Brit card!
Brit card. Yo, Brit card. Brit card. Brit card. Brit card. Brit card. Tap tap scan your soul. Brit card. Government takes control. Brit card. Big brother on your phone. No card, no job, no house, no home. Yo, it's care in the chair. I'm the overlord king. Tony Blair dreamed it. I revived that thing. Digital leash on the worker's neck. Log inside out. One wrong step. Detect. Surveillance state with a barcode smile. We'll clock your tweet, track your banking style. Say it's about migrants, but that's the disguise. Really is your freedom getting nationalized. Brit card. Mandatory vibe. Scan your face just to stay alive. Brit card. Starmer's plan so neat. Checkpoint Britain on every street. Brit card. Mandatory vibe. Scan your face just to stay alive. Brit card. Starmer's plan so neat. Checkpoint Britain on every street. Own dies, but you're locked outside. Old days cry, got nowhere to hide. Hackers feast on the honeypot stash. All your data turned to digital cash. CBDC with a freeze on your pay. Post the wrong meme and they take it away. Smile for the scanner, welcome to the show. Big brother's back and he's running the flow. Brit card, sign of the beast. Privacy's dead, control increased. Brit card, tap tap tap, it's done. Welcome to Labour, 1984 has begun. Brit card, Brit card, Brit card, yeah, Brit card, Brit card, Brit card, Brit card, Brit card, yeah, Brit card, Brit card, Brit card.
And as you see, that came courtesy of the Crucan Gazette. I'm not sure why we've got Nigel Farage turning up there looking like Doctor Who at the end. But reform, from what I can see at least, certainly in the person of Richard Tice, who has had an all-party letter signed by an increasing number of MPs, more today, signing up to that, opposing this digital ID. It's the most abysmal idea that this absolutely wretched government have come up with yet. You know, in the history of bad ideas, this is a particularly awful one. But you know, it's being done for a reason. Let's not think it's sort of some, you know, accidental mistake. The idea is to create a control grid, a technocratic control grid, whereby your money can be turned off because it'll be inextricably linked to a central bank digital currency. Your vaccine status will no doubt be uploaded to it as well. Absolutely everything about you can be stored on this central digital database. Now, don't take my word for it. Take the word of Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle and one of the wealthiest men in the world. He apparently made $60 billion in one day last week. It's worth about $300 billion. He is, of course, an ardent Zionist and a fanatical supporter of the genocidal state of Israel. He also funds the spookily named Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Right. I mean, if ever there was a sort of, you know, villainous James Bond-esque name for an organization, it's that, isn't it? Change, right? I mean, you know, change can be good or change can be bad, but the way it's presented in that sort of phony way could only be from the Blair himself. Well, he spoke to Larry Ellison about what they've got planned for us. If you can bear it, we're going to listen to a couple of minutes of this.
Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
When you come to government and what government's doing, there are artificial intelligence tools, and some of them I know that Oracle have developed around financial management for government, but also tell us a bit about what, because you're right at the forefront of this revolution, what it means for what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, you know, digital ID, data centers, and so on.
How do you take advantage of these incredible AI models? And the first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. You have to take all of your
who is this? The arrogance, you know, telling people what countries need to do. Nobody's voted for him. And nobody's voted for that jerk.
In the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country.
What have my health records got to do with you, Larry Ellison? They're none of your business.
So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. We need to unify all the national data, put it into a database where it's easily consumable by the AI model, and then ask whatever question you like.
So you're really, through the use of this, you're revolutionizing the way government works, right? The services it provides, the way that it operates. What about things like financial management, procurement? How can AI help a government operate more efficiently, more effectively, you know, give a more direct and better service to the citizen?
Well, you know, we have these modern financial systems. So, you know, countries can, and all, for example, the AI system will help you do that. But again, the secret is to get all of that data in one place. Without having the basic data, it cannot answer the question about your country. I think countries are very uncomfortable with keeping their data in other countries' data centers. So I think part of our essential infrastructure, just like airports obviously need to be in our country, or they're not terribly useful. Ports need to be in our country, and they're not terribly useful. Data centers, because of the privacy requirements around the data, need to be in our countries, or they're not terribly useful. They need to be in our countries, but they also need to be secure. And there are new technologies right now. This is the last year you will ever log on to an Oracle system with a password. Next, by the middle of this year, I'm quite certain you are Tony Blair. And
here it comes.
So how do I know? Well, I look at you, I hear your voice, I listen to the kind of questions you ask. I'm pretty sure you're not, you're not synthetically created. And having
you
this
look synthetically created to me, mate.
The security system, we have biometric logins. The computer recognizes you. It recognizes your voice. It might ask you to put your index finger on the return key. And we're absolutely certain it's you. There's no reason to enter a password. In fact, passwords are too easily stolen. Data centers and data is being taken hostage all over the world. The ransomware business is a very, very good business. It's getting bigger and better.
Right, that's enough of that. If you don't have to even know how to read between the lines to understand that these people are megalomaniacs. What on earth do my health records have to do with Larry Ellison? Nothing at all is the answer. But of course, with the NHS being privatized at express speed by this abysmal government, then no doubt my insurance costs will be dictated by some kind of AI computer. But that's only the thin end of the wedge. If only it were just that. We're heading towards a social credit system if we allow it. I'm going to be joined later in the week by Fiona Rose Diamond, who's one of the most vocal, outspoken and vociferous critics of the digital ID system, although with 2.5 million odd people now having signed up to the House of Commons petition to oppose it, she's likely to be joined by hundreds of thousands more. Here is her take on what it will involve.
Digital ID, one device, one identity, one switch, World Economic Forum, United Nations, Tony Blair Institute, think tanks, globalists, unelected. They draft, they convene, they dictate. Governments obey. Your life itemized, your access permissioned, your future programmable. Scan, tap, prove. Your license, age, job, status, health, education, behaviors, travel, location, purchases, contacts, biometrics, carbon budget, social score, compliance level, programmable central bank digital currency, everything linked, ranked, revocable. At first, optional, then little nudges, rewards, skip the queue if you use it, discount if you use it, access if you use it, then full compliance, mandatory, no opt-out. Soon, social credits, you're a good little citizen, rules, standards, new hoops you must jump through, issued by bodies you didn't elect. Then, work, no verified ID, no job. Rent, no scan, no roof. Bank, no verification, funds frozen. Doctor, no match, no care. Travel, carbon quota exceeded, trip cancelled. Geofence enforced. Biometrics, face, voice, fingerprint. Just to make sure it's you. Now you're bound to the system. Logged, tracked, trace. Who you saw, where you were, when you checked in. They call it metadata. Reality, total surveillance. Switches, revocation lists, trust registries, plain English. Someone somewhere can turn you off. Money next, digital currency, programmable. Only spend on approved things in approved places at approved times. Digital ID plus your money equals control. Crisis, there's always one. Health, security, climate, finance. Each crisis equals a new rule. Temporary turns permanent. Your ID is the master key. Throttle the key and throttle you. Decentralized, interoperable, privacy preserving. That's semantic laundering. In English, it's a people tracking super cookie. Learn their language, they can deny you, they can switch you off. Work off, rent off, bank off, doctor off, travel off, speech off. No scan, no service, no app, no life. One switch, everything stops. This isn't convenience, it's servitude. Do not comply. From recommended to required, then enforced, the new normal, permanent. Wrong opinion, silenced. Dissent disallowed. Protest punished. Thought police installed. Account frozen. Wallet paused. ID revoked. Travel denied. Bank blocked. Doctor refused. Platforms erased. Think you can appeal? Think again. Due process gone. Algorithm equals judge. Policy equals sentence. Record equals permanent. Total control. This isn't sci-fi, it's infrastructure. The rails are laid, the points are set. The train is moving. No stops, no consent. Freedom isn't an app. Freedom is choice, privacy, anonymity, dignity, consent, autonomy, saying no without penalty, doors that open without permission, people not portals, life untracked, speech uncensored, movement unlogged, the right to walk away, the right to be left alone. What do you do now? Know who's trying to control your life, know their plan, name the architects, follow the money, find the masters, and do not comply. Do not accept digital ID. No app, no QR, no scan. No link between ID, money, and speech. Use cash, use paper, use human counters. Opt out of biometrics. Support businesses that use cash. Boycott the others. Stand together. Share, inform, unite. Peaceful, public, unmissable. Mass non-compliance. Use your voice. Organize. Do not be afraid. We told you this was coming. You didn't listen. Freedom is yours, but now you have to fight for it. Courage is contagious. Freedom is not a feature. It's a hard line. Digital ID, the hill to die on. This is the last Trojan horse. You must slam the gates shut. They promise convenience. They promise safety. They promise equity. They lie. They engineer. They stir fear. They incite chaos. They architect control. 1984 wasn't fiction, it was a warning. If you choose digital ID, you opt out of freedom. You blink and it's dystopia. You'll ask yourself, when did it happen? It happened while you were downloading the damn convenience. If you choose digital ID, it will be the last choice you ever get to make. Consent once, controlled forever. Refuse now, choose freedom, do not comply. Join us, 18th of October, Central London, 1 p.m. Be brave, stand together, say no while you still can.
Of course, Labour is claiming that digital ID is being introduced to prevent migrants working illegally. Starmer, in a particularly cynical way, trying to use public concern about immigration to force through what is a fundamental change in the relationship between the individual and the state. That is the key thing. In Britain, traditionally, we were allowed to do anything unless it was prohibited by a specific law. Now it seems you are going to need permission to do the things you used to do for free, quite normally in the ordinary course of your life. We've all got used to QR codes for concert tickets and railway tickets, things like that. But that's a very different matter from being required to produce one on your smartphone in order to access various aspects of normal life. What if you don't own a smartphone? What if it runs out of power? Nobody ever seems to ask these important fundamental questions. And of course, there's the hacking factor. All these databases get hacked sooner or later. And with the legendary incompetence of the civil service, it's highly likely this one will too. Then there's the corruption. Word on the street is Ewan Blair's company is set to land the 100 million, or is it 100 billion pound contract to bring this totally unwanted, unnecessary encroachment of our civil liberties into force. Starmer is basically Blair's glove puppet, and not a very good one at that. He collapsed under even the mildest questioning from Laura Kuenssberg yesterday, as we can hear now.
One of our viewers got in touch and wanted us to ask this question. Russ Brown wanted us to ask you if you really believe that those profiting from human trafficking will think, oh dear, I have to check your digital ID now. I can't carry on paying you £1.50 an hour to work in my sweatshop.
I'm absolutely convinced that amongst the reasons that people travel through France, which is a safe country, to come to the United Kingdom, Amongst the reasons is because it's easier to work in our illegal economy than it is in other countries. And we have to deal with that.
Bosses who are prepared to hire people illegally are not asking them for their national insurance card. So what's the evidence? What makes you think they're suddenly going to ask them for a digital ID?
We need to be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID, in order to work, because we have to stop illegal working. If you look at any of the raids, we've massively increased the number of raids on working premises. It is absolutely clear that people are working illegally in numbers.
But why do you think that them having a digital ID, having to have a digital ID, would stop that problem, when right now people are meant to have a national insurance number and card, and if they're not asked for that, a boss is willing already to break the rules? What's the difference going to be?
Well, the difference is this is on point of starting, not a retrospective exercise as it now is. It is an automatic collection of the information by the government, so we know exactly who is working in our economy, and it will help us enforce the rules that are there. But there's no point people saying to me, why do we need it, when we all acknowledge there is a problem. People are working illegally in our economy. It is amongst the reasons that people want to come to the United Kingdom. We have to deal with that. I made a pledge that we would do whatever was necessary, use whatever tools were available.
Go away, you stupid little man. The best news to come out of the Labour Party conference is this. An overwhelming majority of Labour Party members want to see an end to Starmer and his wretched government. But there's every chance, if they do, he will be replaced by another traitor in the form of Wes Streeting. Regular viewers will know that last week I spoke to the consultant neurologist, Dr. Rehiana Ali, who has been targeted for persecution for her opposition to genocide. That, it seems, gets you in the crosshairs of the Israel lobby, who, of course, own the likes of Streeting. He has received large donations from Israel lobbyists and private healthcare firms. The man hilariously described by Alexei Sayle as Keir Starmer's illegitimate love child made of margarine. Now it seems, under pressure from the genocide-loving Zionist lobby, he wants to change the rules and intervene in the independent medical bodies that determine somebody's fitness to practice. This after Dr. Remy Aladwan was cleared last week to resume work after her suspension, again, for wrong speak. You see, a lot of so-called defenders of free speech, particularly the Free Speech Union, love jumping up and down about matters to do with immigration or hurty words on X, as they like to call them, but they say nothing about people who speak out against genocide. That's because the likes of Toby Young are arrant hypocrites and Zionists to boot as well, fully in favor of massacring as many Palestinians as possible. I'm pleased to say Ramy Aladwan and Dr. Rehiana Ali have hit back against that creep Streeting, as we can hear now.
British Health Secretary Wes Streeting is confused about who he works for. Streeting is joining the Israeli Jewish lobby's coordinated attack on British doctors and healthcare workers. His latest threat is to interfere with the ruling of the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service, an independent body that makes decisions on the fitness to practice of British doctors. This comes a few days after I won my MPTS IoT hearing. Before this, he met with his donors, the Israeli lobby, the Jewish Medical Association, and the Board of Deputies of British Jews, after Dr. Rehiana Ali lifted her suspension at the MPTS, where he pledged to bypass the regulator, the General Medical Council, to pass legislation to persecute anti-Semitic doctors, otherwise known as doctors who oppose the genocide, the Holocaust in Gaza, and who speak out against terrorist Israel.
Healthcare Workers Against Censorship requested a meeting with Streeting to represent the voice of British healthcare workers in these matters, as well as our experiences of the 2-year-long harassment campaign by these Israeli lobbies. Hundreds of letters of support were sent to him by members of the British public. Doctors even hand-delivered a letter to his office on the 11th of August 2025. His response? He blocked healthcare workers against censorship. Perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised. When Streeting was president of the National Union of Students from 2008 to 2010, the Jewish Chronicle ran a piece on him. Wes Streeting, our friend at the NUS. Streeting has been the vice chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Anti-Semitism. He's the co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for British Jews. 60% of his donations come from individuals and organisations linked to private healthcare. He's received significant funding from Israel lobbyists such as Trevor Chin and David Menton. He's also had a trip to the terrorist entity funded by the Labour Friends of Israel.
Streeting has crossed the line. Not only is this out of his remit, but he's directly sabotaging our judicial system. Streeting should not be pressuring our already biased towards Israel medical regulator, and he should stay out of decisions and rulings made by our British courts. The individual healthcare workers who have been fighting against this persecution have been doing so for their own careers and their patients, and on behalf of all British healthcare workers. If Streeting gets his way, the censorship, punishment and unjust treatment that follows will be used against us all.
Streeting's allegiance to a foreign entity is treason. Once upon a time, the Tower of London was put to good use. If it was functioning today, Streeting would be near the front of the queue. Streeting thinks he'll become Prime Minister. Well, Streeting, you're not going to survive as Health Secretary for much longer. You need to go.
Indeed, he does need to go, as far as I'm concerned. The Labour Party, of course, at the conference this week, been doing everything they can to keep the genocide off the agenda, invoking all sorts of Byzantine rules and procedures to prevent debate, as we can hear now.
Conference should have the opportunity to discuss the unfolding genocide in Gaza. We request that CAC would put the motion back on the agenda. And if that's not the response, please vote against this report.
Conference, my CLP submitted a contemporary motion about Britain arming Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza. The National Policy Forum report did not acknowledge that British-made weaponry is still being used to kill Palestinians, and so this was not addressed in the report. Despite this, the CAC has excluded our motion. We request the CAC put it back on the agenda. If this is not the response, we ask delegates to vote against the CAC report. Conference should discuss this and the unfolding genocide.
Labour International submitted a contemporary motion on Palestine. This was referred to the NEC, apparently because it relates to an organisational matter. This is rather obscure, but we presume that it's because there is a clause in it which calls for the Palestinian call for boycott, divestment and sanctions to be circulated to all our CLPs and members. We feel that this is an important matter. The whole of Palestinian civil society is calling for BDS. The call includes for a two-way arms embargo on Israel as part of the sanctions to stop this genocide. It's too important to be kicked into the long grass by referring it to another body, and I believe we need to have a debate at conference here this week.
And finally today, here is why Starmer refuses to talk about genocide, because he's complicit. And Yvette, that dreadful woman masquerading now as Foreign Secretary, previously as Home Secretary, she can't bring herself to use the term either, although she did condemn what's going on in Gaza in the strongest terms yet we've heard from a serious minister. And that was just this morning.
The Israeli government must end the moral obscenity of this campaign that has seen food, water and medicine denied.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
Does have that right. He said it himself. He likes to deny it now. They've all got to go to jail or we are living in hell. I'm Basil Valentine. I stand for peace, truth, freedom and justice. I hope you do too. And I'll see you all again at the same time tomorrow, when I will be joined by my good friend, former MI5 agent, David Shaler, and we'll be having a look at who really killed Charlie Kirk. The FBI story has fallen apart. I'll see you all then. Until then, have a great day.